Hello, I am Officer Tiffany Osborne. I'm with the West Carrollton Police Department. I'm currently Prego. So I am light duty. So I do have a 4-year-old daughter already, and I am carrying another daughter. So sassy. We're going to be a really sassy family. I have been a police officer since 2013. I started my career with Grandview Medical Center for a couple years, Perry Township Police, and that was kind of like an opening to West Carrollton. So now I am with West Carrollton. I've been there 7 years in April, I think. So I am happily married. My husband is also a police officer, not for West Carrollton. He's over in Greene County. And we are just kind of a law enforcement family. My father-in-law is also with, he's with Xenia PD. He is a major there. And my brother-in-law is in corrections. So we're just a happy little law enforcement family. Okay, so I'm not gonna bore you too much with who I am, but that was just a general idea. Today we are gonna talk about Halloween do's and don'ts, briefly. So obviously, we wanna be visible, right? For the little ones, just you can make it fun. Maybe have little, have them carry flashlights. You can get the glow necklaces, glow bracelets, go to the Dollar Tree. They have all kinds of fun glowy stuff. So we want to be visible. Reflective tape is also a good one. So inspect your candy. That's like the #1 to do, right? Inspect your candy, which is good. You should always be aware of that. Always inspect your candy. See if the wrapper has been tampered with. Typically, it's if you can tell it's been stepped on or like melted, or if the wrapper has been kind of tampered, I would just get rid of that candy. Stay together as a group when you are trick-or-treating. 2 is better than 1. It's just always better to be in a group and make sure there's a responsible adult with you. Common sense stuff, right? The other one is put those electronic devices down. That goes for the drivers and the walkers. Keep your heads up. Be aware of your surroundings, because you just never know who's going to be coming around that corner. So walk with a purpose, but don't run. Look both ways before crossing the street, all that common sense stuff. So just make sure you're being aware. Okay, next, let's talk edibles. There are all kinds of edibles. I'm sure you are all aware of that now. There are, in Ohio, you can get a medical card. As I've heard, I am not sure of the process, but I've heard it's actually pretty easy to do. You just kind of go to your doctor and say, hey, do you think I could get one of these? And a lot of times they're like, yeah, sure, here you go. See this person. So, does anyone know what the main difference is between THC and CBD? Short version, THC will cause a person to experience a high while CBD will not. Typically in your medical cards, these CBD, they take the THC out. So you don't have grandma, high in the car, going to the grocery store. I mean, that could be fun for her, I guess. Probably dangerous. So that is the most common thing. Okay, so this is what I'm excited for. I do have a court order for this, so I did not just take evidence out of the property room, chief. Don't fire me. Okay, so I have 2 jars here. I'm gonna kind of like walk them around to you. Pass them out. Yeah, I don't know if I trust you guys. Just pass them out to you. So one of them contains THC, and one of them does not. So does anyone have a guess on which one's THC, which one's CBD, or which one's normal? No? Okay, those are gonna stay there. So this was a case in 2020. Long story short, this guy was living in one of our apartments, and he opened fire on somebody else in the parking lot. No one was injured, luckily. He shot off 4 rounds at a car driving away. So that kind of led to, some questions, some investigation. And then after that, it was like a full-on investigation. But basically, they got search warrants, and they conducted this. And all of this is a mattress bag. You know what you have like in a bedding set? That is how big that bag is, if you can reference. I mean, it's giant. Those are all filled with THC edibles that he was self-injecting with. Like, it's actually actual candy. I guess he was going to the dollar store and getting like the actual peach rings, gummy worms, gummy bears, all that kind of stuff. And you can take a needle. And I'm sure there's other ways, and I guess that's how he was doing that. So yeah, I mean, look at this. That is real candy that is just injected in. That is a pot of what we're assuming is the THC that he was using. Here's a bunch of money. He also had the weapon hidden behind a dryer vent. So that's kind of tricky, right? He's gonna hide my weapon in this dryer vent. No one will find it. So there's the weapon. So long story short, that guy actually turned out that our case was not needed because he was already on federal probation. So we don't have details on that. Federal does not tell us what they have people for. But obviously he could not have a weapon and he could not be drug trafficking, right? So that guy's going away for a long time federally. So our case kind of got dismissed, which is why, point A, I can have my little drugs there. So over here, oh, I forgot to mention, I was the SRO for 4 years at West Carrollton High School. I'm preggers now, so last year was my last year for that. So that's a tough job. Anybody work with high schoolers? We know that? Yeah. That's a tough job. Rewarding at times. So side note, I was the SRO. How old do you think the person was that I got these off of? 13? He was 14, a little freshman. They weren't his, of course. Somehow they ended up in his book bag. I don't know where they came from. So this was a gram away from being short of bulk. So, but he still did get charged with the possession because it is still illegal in Ohio to have THC in marijuana. It still is. It's a minor misdemeanor in some cases, but this kid was one of my high schoolers. He was selling it to all my kiddos in the bathrooms and all that. Another huge thing that we had an issue with were vapes, THC vapes. We also had THC or vape detectors in our bathrooms. I wanted to take a bat to them at some point in time because it's constant. So it's really sad how this kind of like, these kids can't even go to first period without having to get a hit. So it's very, very eye-opening. And they say that marijuana is not addictive, but for these kiddos, mentally, and it can be addictive. So I was constantly running. I got a lot of steps in. I was constantly between that and, you know, the fights and everything. There was a lot going on in the schools. So, and we do have cameras, but, and it's hard because you walk into a bathroom, you have 20 girls in there or 20 boys in there in a common area. What are you supposed to do? And a lot of times they will hand it off real quick so someone will take it somewhere else. They'll hide it in their bras. They'll hide it in their pants. There's all kinds of spots that they hide this, and it's just sad for our youth. There's a testing kit for that. However, I will say, you can literally get these testing strips anywhere you want to, like Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, online. This is SwabTech. They're really not that expensive. The schools actually bought these to determine if a kid had THC, which is a drug offense, or if it was regular nicotine. A lot of times you can tell which one is what, or I go into the kid and I say, I'm gonna test this. Are you gonna be honest with me and tell me what's in it? And they'll be like, it has THC. So a lot of times I don't have to waste one of my strips, but it's mostly for the schools to determine their discipline. This does not count as a court evidence. However, I have had some cases on like the kids who have, it's like their second offense and it's THC again. I will charge them because they obviously need some help, right? I'm not charging, like we don't charge kids because we're being mean and they deserve it. We typically charge the kids because they need some more assistance. And the courts have that for them. So I'm going to test each one of these and show you how this works. But again, I have had a case where the prosecutors will say, you know, it was tested and THC was present in these kits. They cannot use that as evidence, but again, it's another tool in order to get them actually tested. The closest lab that we have found is in Michigan, so to send the gummies and the edibles. So that's kind of expensive. So we usually don't do that unless it's for a big case like this. So You'll have a little strip here. This is the testing strip. And then it just has a little Q-tip here. So I'm going to do it on both because that way you can kind of just tell. But if it turns bright red, it means that there's THC. They're not the easiest things to get out. Bear with me here. So yes. Let's see. I know. Okay. We will do each one. Oh, yes. Cheers. You know. Cheers photobombing us. Okay. We'll do this one first. This little guy. So this will test any solid food, liquid, or vape. So you just kind of rub it around there. Just kind of get it really good on there on the Q-tip, like so. And then you just rub it on here. So there's like. So if it's like a brown color, like kind of just very faint, that is negative. Okay, now let me show you the positive and you'll be like, oh, that's what it looks like. So you just get on here really good. So yeah, the brownie residue is just from the strip. See how it turned a bright red here? That means THC is present. Obviously, it's not going to tell you the grams and how much is present. That's what the lab is for. But this is enough for a school to determine. See how it's getting redder, brighter and brighter. This is enough for the school to determine that that is THC, and that would be a higher offense in the schools at least to do that. And it was a good tool for me as well. Even though I can typically tell, but you know, you can't take that to court either. Well, why did you know that it was THC? Well, I could tell. That doesn't work, right? It's all about the evidence nowadays. So here, see how that's kind of brown? So that is a negative test. And these will come with little pamphlets. I don't have it with me. But obviously, there is a clear difference of what has it and what doesn't. So if anyone thought it was this one, that's the winner. And that came straight from that case that I just talked about. Maybe you find some gummies in your kid's room or grandkids or whoever, your parent, and you wanted to test it, you could do that. And if you do have a child who you think maybe is battling this addiction, I'm going to call it addiction because I think that's what that is. There are resources for that. You could always, I always had the parents come to me, what can I do? What do I do? You know? And I tell them, you can take your kids straight to the courthouse. You can take them straight to the Montgomery County Juvenile or Greene County or wherever courthouse and say, what can we do? What resources do you have? How can we make this better? And typically they have a whole bunch of things that they can hand out to you. So that was my visual. Okay, next slide. So I'm sure one more time. Have we all heard about this? It's coming up on everyone's Facebook and, you know, it's on the news all the time. This is around. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's more towards the bigger, like Texas, LA, like the bigger cities right now. We have not seen, as far as I know in this area, we have not seen these pills yet, but who's to say they won't start showing up? Right? You just never know. And I did reference my resource there if you guys wanted to check it out. Next.
Drug task force agents make a huge bust at LAX after a suspect tries to smuggle an estimated 12,000 fentanyl pills through security stashed inside several candy boxes. The suspect who tried to smuggle the potentially deadly drugs fled the scene before being detained.
But federal agents say they've identified the drug runner and now they're conducting a full investigation. KTLA's Pedro Rivera has the latest.
Skittles, Sweet Tarts, and Whoppers. They look innocent enough on the outside of the bag, but inside of these packages, DEA and LA County Sheriff Narcotic Bureau detectives uncovered no sweets at all, but 12,000 suspected fentanyl pills.
It is definitely a big concern.
According to LA County Sheriff Deputy Michael Chen, around 7:30 Wednesday morning, a person attempted to board a plane with what they tried to pass off as candy.
However, it was discovered that inside the Sweethearts, Skittles, and Whoppers candy boxes were fentanyl pills.
According to the CDC, fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin. Deputies do not know whether the suspect was just trying to illegally transport the drugs or was planning to sell the drugs in the packaging. But regardless, it is a cause of concern for law enforcement agencies with Halloween fast approaching.
Parents need to make sure that they are checking their kids' candy and not allowing them to eat anything until it has been inspected by them.
In August, the Drug Enforcement Administration warned of rainbow fentanyl. Since that announcement, law enforcement agencies have seized hundreds of thousands of pills, including in Pasadena, where police in September seized several packages of the candy-colored pills. This comes at a time when the Los Angeles area has seen its fair share of fentanyl-related overdoses recently. In September alone, 9 students have overdosed across the LA Unified School District, some fatal. It's why deputies are asking parents to be extra vigilant this holiday season.
If you find anything in candy boxes that you believe might be narcotics, do not touch it and immediately notify your local law enforcement.
Now, our intention is, of course, not to scare anyone out there, but we just want to make sure you keep an extra eye on your Halloween candy as law enforcement put out that statement today about the fentanyl being seized at the airport. Now, as for that suspect who tried to make their way through the airport with all those fentanyl pills, that person was able to get away, but police have identified them. Reporting live here in Hollywood, Pedro Rivera, KTLA 5 News.
This guy just had pounds of fentanyl on him that were in candy boxes, and it got flagged by the TSA, obviously. So he was arrested. So who has heard this? Is fentanyl the leading cause of death among American adults? Who's heard that? So that's the big thing right now. However, don't you just wish that you knew the truth? You know, don't you just wish? It's hard. So I did look into this. I was doing some research into this because you have one person saying this, and then you have another person saying, no, it's not. And it's just like, well, can someone just tell me like what it is? So there were mixed reviews on this statement, according to the CDC. Neither affirmed or denied the statistic, but they did say that unintentional injuries, which to me means overdoses and maybe car crashes and anything unintentional, is what they came back to this. So they're saying that unintentional injuries is the leading cause of death. So if you kind of put 2 and 2 together, it's a problem, right? We just know it's a problem right now. So that's the facts that we know. The best advice I can give you is check your kids' phones. Check their phones. Check their apps. Make sure their location settings are off. This was posted by the Montgomery County Sheriff. I pulled it straight from their Facebook page. So it just kind of goes into what you should be on the lookout for. Something that like blows my mind, I guess, as an SRO and a police officer. First day of school, right? Yay! My kid is going to first grade. And they'll post a picture, right? And they'll have the name like Fairbrook Elementary, Beaver Creek, Ohio. Teacher is Miss Chris. All that, and they post it on their page. They post it on their Facebook page. So now you're giving predator, even if you're private, you're giving predators that information. Oh, well, this kid goes here. I'm gonna go see this kid. Something like that happened in Xenia, at Xenia Elementary School. And he admitted to it. He admitted that he wanted to go take a child. I guess he had done it before. And he just showed up and said, yeah, I'm so-and-so's parent. You can look it up. It gives me, like, I have a 4-year-old. So please watch what you're posting. Maybe keep that picture for you personally. And then I like to edit out my info or blur it out. Something that somebody can't say, oh, well, so-and-so goes to this preschool. I'm just going to go and try and find them. Okay, so that is a huge thing. It's a huge pet peeve for me. So just be aware of what you're posting online. And as far as location settings on your kids' phones, I have had the top thing that kids have told me while I was at the schools. I would ask them off the record, this is for me to know, just because I'm curious. I would ask them, how did you get this stuff? How did you get these drugs? Their number one answer is Snapchat. Either Snapchat or an app called Telegram. There are different codes that you can send out there, and these kids will go and meet these strangers. I had a girl, I said, well, where did you meet this person? On so-and-so street. Okay. She said, in front of a house. I'm like, well, why did you pick that location? Well, the house had a camera on it, so I assumed it worked if I got, like, taken or something. Literally words from her mouth. I'm like, oh, so just check your kids' phones and just make sure that they're, I know that seems extra, but I'm going to be checking my kids' phones. So just make sure that you are turning off your location settings. Even if a kid is at the Fairmont football game or whatever, and they're posting like, hey, you know, and it says the location. It gives the high school address, really. And if they're not private, then anybody can see that, and they can look for that specific tag, and then they can just show up there. So they know exactly where a kid is, at what time it is. They know all the details. So just go through and just make sure that their location settings are turned off, and make sure that their accounts are private. And then another big thing is just check your medicine cabinets, right? A lot of these kids are either getting their drugs from, like I said, they're going to get it. With knowing the risk that they're taking, that is how much they want these drugs. They're going there and doing this purposely. So if it's not that, then it's the medicine cabinets. Maybe you do have a medical card. Maybe your friend does have some, you know, THC edibles and you think it's safe, and they're in your cabinet. Either way, just please, put locks on it. That goes for weapons in your house. Put locks on it. Lock them up to where the kids cannot get them and just take them to school. Like, hey, look what I got from my parents' cabinet, you know? So that is another huge factor. This is a great website. I don't know if you want to write this down. It's great, especially if you have kids. Cyber Safety Cop. There are seminars for parents, there are seminars for teachers, SROs, everybody. This will tell you about all the different apps and what to be aware of specifically. This is where I found information on the Telegram app. So it's a great, yeah, take a picture, that's good. Yeah, take a picture of it. So that is a great resource for parents, teachers, and grandparents, anybody. Great resource. Here's a funny. So as we get closer to Halloween, no stoner likes your kid enough to give them their edibles. Am I right? No one just wants to give it out. They're expensive. No one just wants to give you some, here you go, kiddo. Here's some of my THC. It is rare. I would say it's mostly accidental if that happens. I do not think that people are just out to get the kids. Is there evil in the world? Yes, absolutely. Should you be aware? Yes, absolutely. But do I think that people are just going to be handing out edibles on Halloween? Not so much, personally. But obviously, you just never know. So that's why we check our wrappers and it, you know. But I would say that it is likely an accident. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, well, that was it. Do we have any questions? Yeah.
How much does it cost, and how much do these kids have on them in terms of cash?
So I don't know specifics on how it costs. That's always very up and down. They either tell me it's either $20 to $50, like for a pack.
And they've got cash on them.
Mm-hmm. Likely. And some of these kids, they do work, some of them. So you know, or they're taking it from mom and dad, and you just, yeah. What was that?
How are the parents held accountable?
That's funny you say that. That's funny. I mean, ding, 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 right? I mean, the parents, how are they held accountable? Sometimes they aren't, which is where I come in, and the police department comes in. And we can charge them with contributing to, I'm having a brain fart, contributing to the, not delinquency. Yeah. Yeah, there are different things that you can charge a parent with, but a lot of times it's just kind of, it's slapped on the wrist. And I have had different cases where kids, I'll say, where'd you get this one from? It's my mom's. She has a card. I got it from my mom. Well, your mom's gonna be getting a charge because that is not okay to be. And this girl, she's like, I have anxiety. After she had just taken the vape and she's shaken to death, and I'm like, well, obviously this is not helping you. It's making you worse. Like you know, it just blows my mind that these kids think that this is the option, and it's not. It's not the option. So there are charges. Do they stick? Not a lot of times. And that's where my position gets kind of frustrating, because I will do all this work in trying to get this kid the resource that they need by pursuing charges and by reaching out to the prosecutor's office and talking to my resources. And in a couple months, guess what? It got sealed. And it doesn't exist. And it's just like, wow. Well, so then I'll make sure that I follow up with those kids. I do. I'll pull them in. How are we doing today? You know, and it's just sad, because you know that they're still doing what they were doing. So, and we do have mental health therapists now in the schools, so that has helped tremendously. However, there's not enough. It's kind of like there's not enough of me, there's not enough of the mental health therapists, there's not enough of our counselors. They're just not enough. We need more resources in the schools. That's just my opinion. Because the personal health, I mean, the mental health therapists, I mean, they're drowning in so many kids. So many kids need it, and it's just so sad, because they don't have that four-legged chair. They don't have the parental support that some kids do. They don't have somebody who cares about them. So it's just very hard. So as one person, you're trying to give them that you know, hug and comfort, but you can't do it all. And there's other kids who need you too. So it's difficult. Yeah, thank you.